Hi, everyone, again for Volume 3 of Disney Compendium. 1940 Disney classic Fantasia is today's episode. I am your host, JJ, and on the other end of the line, how about yourself?
I'm Nick, and I watched Fantasia recently, and it's a fantastic film.
It's absolutely number one on my list of Disney films of all of the animation that they've done. It's my absolute favorite.
Starring Leopold.
Yeah, starring
Leopold.
Yeah.
Leopold.
As we were saying, Leopold, the guy from the Bugs Bunny cartoon.
What's Opera Doc? I was telling JJ off there. It took me till I saw Fantasia to get the reference. Like, oh my god, it's a real guy.
Fantasia is an incredibly big movie.
It's you think about that movie was really ambitious for 1940.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially considering this is just a few years before they were doing the first ever animation on in theaters, and now you have, all right, well, we did the first one. Our third movie out the gate is going to be this over 2 hour artistic, very adult fare.
Yeah. This is my third at bat, so my third major league at bat, so I'm going to go for a grand slam.
Yeah,
Do I get it?
Yeah, it's absolutely wild. It features just tons of sort of songs for classical pieces that are some of the most famous classical pieces of all time. You hear them. Not even because of this movie, but like just beforehand and afterwards and everything. Like it's just
It's like it was like a top 40 of classical music.
Yeah, Toccata and Fugue in D minor, Nutcracker Suite, Sorcerer's Apprentice, Rite of Spring, Pastoral Symphony, Dance of the Hours, and Night on Bald Mountain is the rundown. And yeah, it's wild. It's funny because it takes a long time for it to actually get to cartoons, because Toccata and Fugue is like this weird like modern art exhibit of like showing you abstract patterns and shapes and colors and live action segments and stuff set to music. Like it's not really it's not really a cartoon at the gate. That's what they're starting with.
It takes a minute to ramp up. It's like, hey, here's some fun stuff to look at.
Yeah. It's I mean, there's a whole lot of reasons for that, and we'll get into it when we get to sort of the production of it and the release of it and stuff, because this movie was its original plan for release, and the way it was originally released was different than previous movies that they'd done. So we'll get there, but we're just going to run down the music and the sort of scenes right now for this particular movie. As with the master of ceremonies, Deems Taylor, and your conductor was Leopold Stokowski. So after Toccata and Fugue, they go into the Nutcracker Suite, which it's a big segment. Like it's got multiple different like songs in it. It's the Nutcracker Suite, not just like Dance of the Sugar Plum Fairy or something.
No,
it's like multiple songs. It's the Nutcracker Suite.
There's no Mouse King in this one.
Yeah. It's an Art Babbitt sequence kind of thing, like with just it's the best way to sort of introduce the cartoon segment of this movie. I feel like I feel like it's much more traditional. Like, I mean, Sorcerer's Apprentice is like, it's a Mickey Mouse short, but it doesn't feel traditional Disney in a sense. It's not, there's not a lot of like cuteness to Sorcerer's Apprentice, even though Mickey Mouse is inherently cute. You know what I mean?
Sorcerer's Apprentice is actually kind of scary.
Yeah, it's and I mean, like, and it's that's how it should be. That's it's it's a lot of these are kind of creepy. The story, the poem, and the story behind it, and everything.
Plus, it had some. This one has some naked fairies in it.
Yeah, that was a point of contention.
Cover your eyes, children.
Do you know with the mushrooms? Apparently, Art Babbitt was saying he
took some.
he says that his guide for animating them, like who he sort of like used for reference when animating the mushrooms, were the Three Stooges, and
I mean, okay.
When you see that, you're like, when you learn that information, you're like, no, like
no, because here, I mean, okay, let's call that one for what it is.
Oh,
yeah. Maybe a bit racist.
It's gonna be very difficult to talk about this stuff because it is like what is. Like, yes, it's racist. It's racist then and it's racist now, but racist then was a completely different thing as racist now, and it wasn't. The intention is different. Like, it wasn't intended to be cruel, but it wasn't intended to make fun. So
it wasn't Mickey Rooney in Breakfast at Tiffany's racist.
Yeah,
but it was still.
It's not James Bond in Yellowface or something. You know what I mean? Like, it's.
It's not Fu Manchu or anything like that, but it's and I think that's a thing we've kind of come across in, like, even not so much in Snow White, but I know for sure last week and even today and this week we're like there's these movies have some of that in it.
Yeah, and like you're gonna get it. You're gonna get it for kind of the bulk of the 30s and 40s and early 50s. Like 50s, 50s, it starts to fade out a little bit, but there's only so much you can do. Like,
it's gonna peak at Dumbo, guys.
Oh boy, it's gonna be in Dumbo. Luckily, Song of the South was a completely different studio. Just had help from this studio on the animation segments, but it's not a animation studios movie, so we won't have to really dig into the subtle nuances.
That's great, because the only way to watch Song of the South is illegally, and I would never have a legal copy of Song of the South.
I would never have bought a ripped Laserdisc edition.
Yeah.
At a comic convention.
Yeah. That I might have given somebody $10 for, and they purchased, and it came to me wrapped in a napkin. Yeah. I would not have done that.
Yeah. So, luckily, everything is relatively readily available on the DVD format on these. Some of them trickier than others. Some of the weird compilation ones that we're going to get to in a few weeks. But
Fantasia is readily available.
Yeah. Fantasia. They put out an absolutely gorgeous 4-disc Blu-ray. It's obviously not currently available because, as is the Disney way, but it's also not impossible to find. So, if I recall, I'm pretty sure the Fantasia Blu-ray came out the same day as Epic Mickey for the Wii.
You might have. I guess like Fantasia Blu-ray came out the same day Blu-ray players came out.
Because I absolutely bought them on the same exact day. So, so yeah. So yeah, Nutcracker Suite. It's a ballet. I mean, from just featuring, get increasingly weirder ballet, like dancing mushrooms to all like nude fairies and stuff. It gets.
I've done a little bit of research. Like, believe it or not, I've done some show prep, folks.
Yeah.
And according to the Disney Fan Club website, D23.com, which I'm sure JJ is well acquainted with.
Oh yeah, card carrying member, and that's 100% truthful. I have a card in my wallet.
I believe it was the Americans had actually never seen the complete Nutcracker ballet when Fantasia premiered in 1940.
Very, very true. Very true. Yeah, it was never, never a completed American thing. The music was mostly what we had, but yeah, the actual ballet hadn't had its big North American premiere, so to speak, yet. So
4 years later.
Yeah, 4 years later. Exactly. See, you did some good damn research.
I did. Hey, man, I used to do this for a living, so.
Well, the segment after the Nutcracker Suite is obviously the most iconic scene from pretty much a lot, like most Disney movies, not just this movie, but is the Sorcerer's Apprentice.
Sorcerer's Apprentice, where broom murder was advocated.
Yeah, terrifying, absolutely horrifying broom murder. It's a very cool short. Like
it is.
It's
but you feel like the sorcerer should have known better. Like
yeah,
this is a cool hat. Yeah, Mickey's got this.
Yeah, Mickey's got this. He clearly doesn't have any part of his life under control, but I'm gonna just leave this hat that grants him infinite power just hanging out in the room with him.
You gotta lock your gun cabinet there, sorcerer.
Yeah. And in case anyone doesn't know, even though you probably do, the sorcerer's name, the wizard's name, is Yensid, which is Disney backwards, and so he was designed to look like a gruff sort of Walt Disney. That's sort of a joke on Disney. So
his face actually kind of reminded me of the Queen from Snow White. Had that same kind of like wild-eyed, Bruiser Brody looking kind of character.
Yeah. It's yeah. He looks like he'd be a cruel character.
He's just like
yeah, like it feels like. I feel like we're another 5 years away from just having him be just this cruel, like dark wizard or something.
Jensen Jensen gets up and watches Fox and Friends every morning. Whoops, sorry. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Was there not a Sorcerer's Apprentice level in Mickey Mania? I think there was, right?
They try to shove a Sorcerer's Apprentice level in like every side-scrolling 16-bit Mickey Mouse themed anything. There's like a whole Fantasia side-scrolling 16-bit video game. There was.
Oh yeah. And so I didn't mean to jump ahead, but yes, Fantasia showed the video games.
Yes, multiple, not just one, but there's a couple. When we go to the wind down, we'll go through our checklist of the was there checklist. So. But so yeah, the Sorcerer's Apprentice, the song is based off of a poem, and the song was adapted from the poem, and they took both and adapted this short Disney thing. And this was actually sort of the first thing they created was Sorcerer's Apprentice. It was one of the like in early development. It was sort of like I got an idea for a silly symphony kind of thing. So.
Well, I mean, I bet if you're trying to sell people on it, like, okay, here's what it is.
Yeah,
it's got Mickey in it.
Yeah, this is the only Mickey Mouse, like Walt Disney Animation Studios theatrical Mickey Mouse anything. So
that's right. This is the only like theatrical, like full-length Disney movie with Mickey in it.
Yeah, they've never done this studio. Like, there's been Mickey movies, obviously.
Yeah.
Well, and you know what? I'm going to take that back because they do in a couple of movies. There will be another Mickey Mouse short in one of the compilation movies coming out.
Oh,
So,
okay. Okay.
it is not the only one, and I retract my previous statement. I always forget that I can't remember which one it was. I want to say Fun and Fancy Free is a Walt Disney Animation Studios theatrical release that has Disney short on it. So,
Oh, okay.
Mouse short. So,
but as far as ones you would typically call like a Disney animated film, yes, this is pretty
yes.
much it. Yeah.
Yes, this was sort of created and animated specifically for this. Those compilation films were films of ideas that they've just needed to get out because of the war. So, like,
Yeah.
this was supposed to be for something else completely different, but we're just gonna put it with two other things unrelated to it and call it a movie. It's just because we need to make some money.
We got to shoehorn this bad boy in.
Yeah, the military propaganda that we're forced to work on isn't bringing us any revenue, so we have to.
Hey, speaking of racism, uh, don't go watch those guys.
No, yeah, yeah. I highly suggest you not do. You know, you're in for a treat when you get Disney years ago put out these Walt Disney Treasure DVD sets, and one of them is a standalone World War II set of like all of the stuff that they worked on during World War II.
Yes.
And you have Leonard Maltin out there like, no, listen.
it's the disclaimer before Frankenstein. Like,
Yeah,
listen, hey,
different time. Yes, you're gonna see some things that are gonna make you go.
Disney was raised on a farm, so that's just all they know.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
after the Sorcerer's Apprentice, you go into Rite of Spring,
Mm-hmm.
which is like super cool. It's like the history of the Earth set to music, like you know.
That seemed to be the theme. Like, we're going to take a kind of a dark segment and then follow up with like happy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was cool. Like, you know, the dinosaurs and stuff were kind of was like
Oh
that's
God. I mean,
yeah,
it starts happy. Okay, clarify.
yeah. Yeah, the creation of Earth. It's great. And then like, oh yeah, that's right, all the dinosaurs die.
That dinosaur segment was pretty metal when you were a kid. Like,
Yeah,
oh my God.
yeah. I mean, yeah, uh, it's not spoilers jumping ahead, but like, and it's sort of basically what that uh, the Grand Canyon at Disneyland segment is when you take the train
Okay.
tour. Yeah,
Didn't know that. Now they're gonna say spoilers. The dinosaurs died. Like JJ,
yeah.
we
Well, spoilers. We're gonna travel into the 2000s where they make a movie called Dinosaur. That
and this is still better than that.
yeah, this 40 this like what 20-minute segment about the
And
um
it's actually better animated than Land Before Time.
Land Before Time is going to have a very interesting connection coming up in one of our movies
Oh,
in a couple of decades here, so we'll definitely get to that.
I,
After you do Rite of Spring, you get to like a little intermission where they just have like, because this movie's so long, this movie has an intermission in it.
I mean, yeah, it's like, hey, folks, go catch it, go get some
and it's
raisin
literally just this like this freestyle jazz session, like like meet the soundtrack, and they're like
That's right.
introducing you to sound and like as but personified as these like visuals on the screen, and it's the silliest thing, but I loved it.
I mean, if the intent was to get you to get up and go do something, it failed because I just sat there.
The next after the intermission was the Pastoral Symphony, Beethoven's thing, set with all of the Roman Zeus and centaurs and cupids and mythology and stuff. So that, if I recall correctly, we get to my during production notes. I think this one was the one that had like the most contention behind it. Where it's like, this really doesn't have much to do with the music that you've created here. Like,
there's a censored version and an uncensored version.
yeah, yeah, well, yeah, because the Centaurettes were like nude and stuff, and that was kind of
He's a horseman. What's he supposed to wear?
yeah, and like they're used to yeah, and like you know bare breasts and stuff. So there's like I get it in the sense of like still to this day you have like well you can't do that. This is for kids. It's like it's not for kids, but
Yeah, I don't.
it's stupid though, and it's something that Disney deals with constantly. One of their most famous, like back to Disney racism, which again, it's going to be a theme. You can't talk about Disney without talking about the racist stuff. They had to go back later on. The one of their most famous silly symphonies was Three Little Pigs.
Yep.
And they had to censor that one because, like, at one point, the Big Bad Wolf tries to get into the houses as a traveling brush salesman that is just absolutely the most stereotypical Jewish caricature you've ever seen.
Oh my gosh. And I'm actually looking at the what got censored, and I was like, oh yeah, no, that's totally the little goat behind the female centaur.
Yeah,
that's not cool. That is not cool.
Yeah,
that is Mr. Popo not cool.
Yeah, no, there's, I mean, like, those mushrooms were just like, yeah, no, yeah, yikes. And like,
there is not a collar big enough for me to tug.
Yeah. Both of us as sort of just your typical, just regular run-of-the-mill white dudes, it's like we sit there and it's like, yeah, like we're able to sort of go on from it, but some of this stuff, especially like when you get to like next week with Dumbo, you're like, oh, really? Like, it's like we're going into like minstrel stuff at a point. It's terrible.
It's pretty bad. But the Pastoral Symphony, by the way, it's a standout for me because it allowed my mom to deliver a sick burn to my dad.
Oh,
because my dad's name is Dennis, and this features Dionysus, which means lover of great wine.
Yeah,
and she's just like, uh-huh. We're watching it, and she sees him stumble, and she's like, uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Beautiful. Nothing's better than when a movie sets up a sick burn for a family member.
Like awkward Disney night at the movies.
Yeah. The following one is one of the it's one of the probably the more Disney of all of the Disney segments, and it's the Dance of the Hours, where it's a very comical ballet featuring animals. Like it's got the hippo and a tutu,
and
like it is a very everything about that one just screams like this is a Disney silly symphony. Like
I would argue after Sorcerer's Apprentice, this is probably the most iconic short in here, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
With the elephant blowing bubbles and like all that stuff. Like, yeah, the ostriches. I think they still like you'll still see a lot of hippo, tutu hippo merchandise. Like if you go to like the Disney store or like the theme parks or something, it's something that you still see a lot of.
I can't. Folks, I'm not a zoologist. I can't tell if it's a crocodile or a gator. I think it's a crocodile, right?
It's a gator.
It's a gator.
It's a gator.
Okay, so I saw this movie after I'd seen Robin Hood, and you remember the gator that kind of does the announcing for the
Oh yeah,
archery
yeah.
tournament? Was convinced he was one of these guys.
Eh, considering everything we know about Robin Hood, uh, very well possible
Reusing stuff, yeah.
that it's just it very well could just be like they used the reference sheets and maybe some animation and stuff because we'll get to it when we get to Robin Hood because as much as I love Robin Hood, that movie is
That
yeah,
that is a green movie with all the recycling they do.
yeah, yeah. It's a wild that it's crazy to see some of the stuff like podcast obviously very audio format, so we won't be able to see the the side by side comparisons of it in the Jungle Book, but we'll get there. Oh, we will get there.
Oh boy, yeah,
Yeah,
but yeah, no, like I was convinced that was him. Like, attention, everyone!
yeah,
It's that guy. It's a gator from Robin Hood.
yeah. And to wrap up the entire series, you have back-to-back double feature in the final thing with Night on Bald Mountain and Ave Maria. This one is iconic in its own way because of just how dark the visuals are.
I don't know what you mean.
The devil is summoning evil spirits on top of a mountain. Like it's there's ghosts and and it's like I remember as a kid, just like I wanted to turn the movie off. I like you're like 5, 6, 7 years old. It's terrifying. Chernobog is a terrifying creature, like seen in the shadows but glowing and towering above the world. Like
I know, and here's the thing. Like, I was such a weird kid. Like, that's what cause I knew that scene was in there. Cause I'd seen like clips on TV.
Oh yeah.
And that's what I want to see. Like,
yeah.
Where's that coming in? When's that coming in? I want to see that big devil monster.
Yeah.
Because that thing looked awesome.
It is such a good design. Like, it's stunning. I genuinely mean that when I say, like, when you see it's and its movement is so good and its big sweeping motions and like the glowing that it has and stuff. Like, it's absolutely just stunning to see it. And then you have it driven away with the bells as morning breaks kind of stuff, and Ave Maria starts playing and stuff. Like it's fantastic. Like it is the best segment out of all of them. Like
absolutely
by a long. Like it's like okay, yeah, Dance of the Hours is fun. Sorcerer's Apprentice is obviously Sorcerer's Apprentice. Like
yeah,
it's it's probably it's probably like just separated on its own. It's like the best Mickey Mouse cartoon kind of stuff. But Night on Bald Mountain segment is just absolutely the best part of this movie, and it's the perfect like closer for this.
Yeah, there's a reason it was booked in the main event, brother.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess we could talk a little bit about sort of like, whoo boy, the production of this one, because the production of this one just like it is for as long as he's been working on movies, this has been like sort of in the back of his mind. Like after Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, this was like, he had like the concert feature is what it was going around as. That's what it was called, the concert feature.
And I would assume like as much as he got kind of like ridiculed for like doing Snow White, this when people are like, whoa, hold up a minute, what?
Yeah,
you want to do what?
Yeah, and again, within his own studio, it's like you're bringing in this conductor, and he's never worked on a cartoon in his life, and now he's working on a cartoon with you with Leopold Stokowski. Like they had a really close relationship. Like he was at the studio working with him, like they were arguing about the music that was going in it and like what the visuals were going to be, and all that stuff.
You almost have to wonder if the inclusion of Mickey in Sorcerer's Apprentice was kind of like like Walt kind of giving something like, okay, here's Mickey. Like,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
I want to do this, but here's Mickey. Fine, I'll put Mickey in there.
Well, I mean, in a sense, but really, what was happening at the time, by this point, by the time you get to 1936, which is when the sort of seeds of this were planted, Mickey Mouse was kind of done for at the studio. Um, Donald Duck was actually the more popular character. And
Donald's a better character. What can you say?
yeah, well, it's because what they ended up doing was taking like from black and white Mickey in particular, they started taking character traits from Mickey Mouse and applying him to other characters. So
yes.
he stopped being mischievous, and that Pluto gets the sort of like mischievous gene,
Right.
his sort of like buffoonery gets put on Goofy, and his short because he used to have a short fuse and was kind of a jerk, like that became Donald, and so like Mickey Mouse just ended up becoming just a mascot in every sense of the word. Like he didn't have any edge to him at all. Period. He wasn't.
He was pretty homogenized.
Yeah. By that point, and yeah.
I would argue that Mickey was that way, and this is kind of getting off track, but we'll circle back around. I would argue Mickey was kind of that homogenized version until very recently when they started doing those Disney shorts.
Yes.
Which are fantastic. They're so good.
New Mickey shorts are absolutely phenomenal. And what they ended up, it all started a lot with, as I mentioned a little earlier, the Epic Mickey game, where that was sort of where they were, the reintroduction of Oswald, which was, pre-Mickey Walt creation, and like they sort of made Mickey Mouse, and this movie sort of was intention was to make Mickey Mouse what Mickey Mouse used to be. I mean, he's being a little shyster here, where he's he doesn't want to do his work, so he's looking for the shortcut, so he takes the wizard hat, and of course everything goes horribly wrong for him, which is a very typical Mickey Mouse thing. And that's what the whole sort of idea for this was originally. Was Walt saw that Mickey Mouse needed a boost, and so it was going to be like, oh, we can make just sort of a deluxe, like big budget silly symphony starring Mickey Mouse, and like just do more for it, do like go beyond just like gags, and
we're like, let's have Mickey play God.
Yeah, so like and so that was it. Like it was originally going to be like, I want to get this orchestral piece of The Sorcerer's Apprentice, and they eventually got the music rights to it. And that's when Walt was like, I'm going to get a conductor, like an actual, like, well-regarded, add something to the short by getting somebody, a big name in this style of music. And
it was
and he offered to do it for free, which was a big deal for Walt. Like,
oh wow, that I didn't know actually. Like, I wonder what he gained from, or just like, hey, I get to do this cool thing.
Yeah. There's a story like cartoons even to this day have like a way different pay structure stuff. So I'm curious, like, how things play out when you're working on these kinds of feature things. But like, but yeah, they just kept going at it for this. They really, like, this was a big deal for Walt. Walt became just sort of like fully dedicated to this idea, and like obviously it's steamrolled. Like,
yes.
It's like you can't just sit there and talk with a conductor and not have the conductor in your ear. Like, well, what if we also did some of this stuff?
Well, so let me ask you a question. So they, you said they got Leopold to do it for free. So did that include like they got the whole Philadelphia Orchestra to do it for free, or
Leopold agreed to do it for free? I'm not saying he offered to do it for free. I'm not saying he did do it for free.
He did do it for free.
Yeah,
he's like, I'll do it for free, but if you want to hook me up with some,
and absolutely, even if he did it for free, there is no way you're getting the Philadelphia Orchestra to do it for free. There's
No.
there's no, there's no way at all. And I mean, the Sorcerer's Apprentice alone, like so they hired the Philadelphia Orchestra, obviously, to do
Yes.
this, and
Of which he was lead conductor, right, of that orchestra.
yes.
Yes.
And it was a 3-hour recording session.
Oh my Lord.
I know. And with an 85-piece orchestra. So, it's like this was an expensive like short. It was like this number that I have here says it was $125,000.
Man. Well, I mean, you think about the cost of this movie. Okay, so this came out in 1940, right?
Yes.
Okay, so we have you can pretty much get classical music now because a lot of it's public domain or it's kind of like free. In 1940, it probably wasn't.
I mean, well, like yeah, he had to acquire the rights for that was like he actually had to acquire the rights for the music. So yes, it was not public domain music at the time. So you're not paying. So you're paying for the rights. You're paying for the rights of the poem because you're adapting the poem as well, on top of an entire 85-piece orchestra.
Plus, however many animators you get working on the movie.
Oh yeah. Plus, you have on top of this, the animators are also working on other projects at the time. So it's not like and because it's a multi-part feature, there's different each part has a different like animation team and what have you. So
and you also think about the fact that the animation is kind of differs drastically from short to short. Some are more similar than others, but like you can't go like, oh, that looks like this. Like there's I see similarities like the fairies and like the centaurs, you can kind of see the similarities there. And you see the dinosaurs and the Night on Bald Mountain, you see the similarities. But
like I said, with the hippos and everything, like that's a very traditional Disney cartoon. That's
right.
That very easily could have just been like a silly symphony. Yes. And that's sort of what ended up happening when they look at the budget of this short that they're working on, this Sorcerer's Apprentice. Roy was the money man. And Roy says there is zero chance we're making any of this money back. It's a short. They're already sort of diving into feature length. There's no money, like long-term money in shorts, because they're all just like, you go to the theater to see a group of shorts or whatever, or like it's what's playing before the movie, or shorts were consumed a little differently, especially Disney ones for most of the time.
Yeah, it's like show me the Donald cartoon before I go see this thing.
Yeah, but like and there used to be like marathons and stuff where they would play like a set of Disney shorts or whatever. But like for the most part, you're never going to make the money back just releasing a short in the theaters, especially of this size. But it was like four times more expensive than a typical silly symphony or whatever.
Oh, I can imagine.
So
this is mostly like a passion project for Walt.
Absolutely, 100%. Once he got committed to it, once it got this deep into production, like he was dead set on sort of like with Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, it was like I will show them that cartoons just aren't this like kiddie medium. Like they can be serious art as well. And also he wanted to show that he just wasn't some like country bumpkin as well, like which Walt, I'm sorry.
I'm bona fide.
Yeah, he's a California man now, so it's so as the budget inflates and everything, that's where the idea comes. It's like, well, what if we just make more of these?
You know how we're over budget? Let's be more over budget.
So So by 1938, they've basically uh, made offers to Stokowski to extend his contract out and say, we're going to make this a feature film. Um, and so they start hiring more. That's when you get Deems Taylor involved to be the sort of masters of ceremonies and stuff.
Now,
But
we.
you know,
Oh, sorry.
they were also deep into like Pinocchio and Bambi production as well. Like, you know, you're working on other movies as well. So this movie is always during the production of Pinocchio, Bambi. This is going on in the background, like a lot of this stuff, because you know, obviously Bambi gets pushed out. Pinocchio becomes the second movie. This becomes the third movie, and so you know, there's a lot of going, you know, pushing things around to make things. And the fact that this is the third movie and Bambi isn't, like, Bambi's not even the fourth movie. So, like,
well,
the,
you know,
the fact that they got this done so quickly is sort of mind blowing, and it's giving the scale of it and considering what this movie ends up becoming, like in terms of theatrical release in particular, like it's insane.
Well, and okay, so I kind of recall like part of the reason it lost so much money, not just because of the production, but this is 1940, so the rest of the world is at World War II, so you can't distribute to the European countries
It becomes
as easily as you would like to because the war is going on.
Yeah, it becomes the war in particularly with future movies becomes a real issue because, like you said, you can't sell to Europe, and any money that you do make has to stay there. So you're gonna see shortly Walt sort of disappear from cartoons and start jumping into live action. And the reason he does that is because that's where the money is.
Yeah.
Like, the animation studio doesn't have a lot of money, but he has all of this money tied up post-war Europe to make movies that can't leave Europe. So what do? You pack up a studio. And Walt always, when he got to Hollywood, he wanted to make live action movies. Like, that was his dream. He wanted to make movies. Despite the better part of what the, you know, A Suitcase and a Dream, Walt Disney wanting to go make it big in the cartoons just were what he was good at.
When he was a boy, he envisioned Herbie Goes to Monte Carlo. like this is my magnum opus.
Yeah.
This is what I want. Well,
closer to So Dear to My Heart or whatever, but
yeah. Now, this movie also, oh God, I think it was, and correct me if I'm wrong, it was called Fantasound, right?
Fantasound, yes. See, that's where a major problem with this movie came into out the gate, was the idea, because they packaged everything together as a traveling concert. It was never really a movie so much as it was like this traveling road show, and it was a concert. They considered it a concert. The movie was called the concert feature before Fantasia was, like, you know, picked on for it. Yeah, they theaters, they came up with this idea of Fantasound, which is like, think about, like, if you go to like your movie theater these days, like some movie theaters have their own like specialty, like RPX or you know,
D-Box
and stuff, just like with, like, you know, it's just, you know, very special you know, sound equipment. And it was, you know, it was a little more simple back in 1940, where it's like, you know, stereophonic surround sound and you know, multi-track recordings and noise cancellation and stuff. Like, it wasn't like anything particularly crazy, but this isn't what theaters were. This is what movie theaters were at the time. So
this is like, actually, is the first or one of the first to have stereophonic sound.
yes. Well, I guess it's a first for everything. Like, Fantasound was absolutely like pioneering at its time. Like, it was like, it was absolutely phenomenal, like, way to watch the movie with all the sound and stuff going on. Like, if you go to Wikipedia, Fantasound has its own independent Wikipedia page.
Holy smokes!
But but like, you know,
So it does, as I look at it. Yeah.
yeah, no, I'm not joking. It has its own wickets, but like, you know, you're not going to get theaters to agree to this because they're making so much money off of their ticket for the setup that they've already have. Like, now you want me to
install the specialized stereo equipment.
Yeah, and so
yeah.
The other thing about the movie was that its original intention was to just be a traveling show, and when they were going to create new segments and like take out old segments and put in new segments, and that way there's a chance when you go the next time that you're not going to see something that you saw the first time around, but you're going to see a whole new segment in it, or like oh, it's coming back in town, and this time it has the Nutcracker. I want to see that one again, or whatever. So it's like it was designed to be like the Disneyland of movies before Disneyland was a thing. Like, it's never finished. It's going to always be growing and doing its thing out there in the world. But
you could argue that that's kind of what Fantasia 2000 is in a way. Like, they kept some stuff, but they added mostly new stuff.
Yeah, it's like, you kept. We'll get to it. We'll get to Fantasia 2000 because
we got a ways to go.
We got ways to go for Fantasia 2000, but yeah, and yeah, it had a short run. It was like this version of it was Fantasound, and the Roadshow was less than a year, I think, maybe just barely a year.
Because, hey, spoilers, we're still in the middle of the Great Depression.
Yeah, I mean, it ran in Fantasound as a roadshow from 1940 to 1941. Obviously, RKO was like, what? It's 2 hours and 5 minutes plus an intervention. Yeah,
Walt, we need to stop making this movie.
Yeah, and an intermission. They were like, "This is incredibly long. Like, this is like, what are you doing?"
With a trust circle around Walt.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, it's yeah. So they did like 13 of them. It didn't do particularly great, obviously. You have its first 16 weeks in New York, it grossed $300,000.
That's not great.
Not great, considering the budget of this was $2.3 million.
In 1936 dollars.
So, let's see. I have the breakdown. So, let's see. In New York, it grossed $300,000 in the first 16 weeks. $20,000 in the first 5 weeks in San Francisco.
Good Lord.
About $20,000 in 10 weeks in Boston and LA. By the time it was all said and done, the first round of the road shows were completed by 1940, spring of 41, 1.3 million. So, obviously you still have almost half. There's still half the money you need to get back for the production of this movie.
Well, I mean, if you think about,
but the problem with it is that it cost $85,000 in production and installation of a single Fantasound setup.
So movie theaters were losing money.
So they were losing money because Disney was the one installing them. So
now, when you talk about the budget for the movie, that does include we have to the cost of the traveling circuits we got going on here.
Yeah, and and like we said, World War II was just starting at this point, just fresh underway, and so they lost 45% of their income strictly because they couldn't go to Europe. Wow. They had over 80 sort of potential runs going, but the war obviously destroyed that because for various reasons. Materials alone for wartime use,
Go buy some war bonds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, let's see. Like the Fantasound setups were, dismantled and given to the military for wartime use, kind of stuff. And so if
I just like the names Fantasound.
it's very cool. It sounds like some sort of like proprietary software you download for your headphones these days. Like if you had like really nice high-end Disney manufactured headphones. It's like
Actually, their
download the
headphones.
Fantasound driver, and
These headphones have a Fantasound, so they have ghost noise canceling. Fantasound.
Yeah.
Or the sound of you hear when you open a Fanta.
Yeah.
Why are you opening a Fanta?
Yeah.
Why are you drinking a Fanta in 2018?
Yeah. Sorry, Fanta fans out there. I do not. Listen. We may. You never know. You never know. Maybe somebody from Fanta's listening.
All right, fine. I apologize to Fanta fans. Fago fans, I'm sorry. No.
But so at the end of the day, it looks the combined average for each road show was $325,000. That's the word I was going for there. So it was, Pinocchio was a huge loss. This was worse for the company.
That's the thing is, we kind of touch on a common theme with all these movies. Are the first three, like how they have to innovate technology.
Yeah,
and that costs. That's not cheap.
And I'm going to tell you right here, right now, before Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs and after Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, up until well into the 50s, this studio doesn't make a whole lot of money. I mean, it's Disney, but everything's sort of, all the money goes right back into the studio. So like it's making like some money, but they're in such debt all the time, and none of the movies are really super like financially successful as Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs for quite a while. And World War II doesn't help. The changing of the guard doesn't help after the upcoming animator strike and everything, and then eventually Walt. We'll get there again. Like I said, that's our battle cry. We'll get there. Eventually Walt sort of starts losing interest in animation. He starts making these live action movies, and then he starts focusing on the theme park and stuff. And so you'll see a change in output. Like some could say because like there was sort of a freedom away from Walt that sort of helped the studio in a way when he started not caring as hard. But
they were kind of able to like go, hey, we're going this direction.
Yeah, we'll go this direction. He still approved it was final approval. But, at a point you also got to sort of maybe take some more shortcuts, cut things that were like, this isn't working. Walt really likes it, so we have to keep it in, but it's very hard to work with and it's costing us millions or whatever. Like, you see things.
Walt really likes a net. We need to keep a net in here. Let's feature a net. Which, by the way, you talk about like how they didn't make a lot of money for a lot of years. You could argue their most commercially successful thing for like the next 15 years was a Mickey Mouse Club, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, their TV stuff in general, once the 50s hit, was absolutely like massive.
Zorro. Zorro was so good.
Oh, Zorro, and Davy Crockett was a massive thing too.
And of course, the one I always make fun of, Spin and Marty.
Yeah, I can't say anything without you just throwing shade at Spin and Marty.
It's so bad. It's bad. I'm sorry. I know we're talking. We'll go to this podcast. We talk about like how much you love Disney stuff, and I do. I love Disney animation, but dude, if you cannot look me in the eye and say Spin and Marty's not trash, I can't take you seriously.
That's right. There was something I was going to say in terms of production. You're a big Universal Monster fan, right?
Yes, sir.
Hey, do you know who did the poses, reference poses for the devil in Night on Bald Mountain?
Boris Karloff.
Bela Lugosi.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So yeah, he was the
Well,
reference model for like the poses and stuff. You can see it once you learn that little factoid. Like you can see like, oh yeah, it is very Dracula-esque, isn't it?
yeah, okay, I didn't know that. But it's also the period where Bella would have pretty much done anything for a
Yeah,
paycheck.
yeah, 1940 Bela Lugosi is like, yeah, how much? Sure.
Abbott and Costello are going to be in it? Cool.
Yeah. What year did Abbott and Costello meet Dracula? When would that have come out?
I want to say that was 40. No, it might have been the early 40s, 41, 42.
So around the same time as that's oh, yeah, all right. But yeah, obviously after the failure, RKO gets the actual
48. 48.
Really? Wow.
1948 is when Abbott Costello beat Frankenstein came out, which is the one he was in.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, that's a different podcast. That's
a different podcast,
boy, we could easily just spin this off into a history of the Universal monster movies, couldn't we?
And here's the thing about this: like we know these are Disney themed podcasts, and we love Disney, but JJ and I also love other stuff. Like you'll hear me drop a lot of wrestling things in there, and you're not going to get it. You might get it, you might not.
Yes, we apologize for Nick's earlier Bruiser Brody reference.
If you ever hear me punctuate a sentence with "brother," it's wrestling.
Yeah. It's but yeah. So eventually, back onto track here.
Sorry.
Eventually, the RKO gets the actual like film rights, the distribution. Like it's got to go into general release now. Like the money needs to be made off of this movie, and obviously RKO is like, yeah, we cut and chop it up and make it more palatable to the crowd and cut out a segment or something.
Well, I mean, like their audience is kids, that, or at least from RKO's perspective,
yeah.
your audience is children. So you're like, hey, you're gonna listen to classical music for 2 hours.
Despite Walt, no matter every movie he ever made, Walt was like, it is not a kids movie, it is a family movie. It's just like Disneyland. It's not for kids, it is for families. It is designed for every. It's like he doesn't like that's why nothing's really particularly sanitized. Despite future Disney stuff being sort of a little more squeaky clean. Disney stuff was designed to be like for adults to enjoy it, not like some movies now where it's like it's not designed for adults to enjoy it. We just put in some things that adults will get, like you get a lot of that stuff.
So so when it was re-released, it was like say RKO cut it down to like an hour and a half or hour 40, right?
Yeah, it was like the original because Walt refused to be involved in the editing process in any way, shape, or form. Like
I can't blame him. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I can't do this. I just can't. So they had like the musical editor cut it down, and so it was yeah, it varied. I think like the first cut was like the first original cut was like a little over an hour and a half long, and like. Then you removed Deems Taylor's stuff and Toccata and Fugue, and it ended up being like under an hour and a half.
I remember reading something years ago about like, and even though this movie was only like 15 years old, like I guess in the 1950s, like the sound or the sound negatives started to deteriorate.
Yeah. There was movie stuff was not particularly great in terms of trying to save and, you know, keeping movies, you know, protected and stuff. Like there wasn't a whole lot going on at all, period. So I don't know if you can hear my dogs barking in the background, but there they are. Like
Hi,
in 1942, when they re-released it, it was in mono.
Oh gosh.
So, and it was like, so according to this particular article, it was it was a double bill with Valley of the Sun. So
Hey, do you have?
I don't know. I mean,
you're gonna take the week off from work.
Yeah. So, like, but you know, this is the hour-and-a-half version of Fantasia. With
Yeah.
So you know, most year, half a week at least. But you know, this is 1942, so you know, we're still got some stuff going on there.
Well, and also, keep in mind the 50s. You know, I arcade was pretty much done by then, right?
Yeah.
And so maybe, and they're probably preserving that stuff wasn't a high priority for them.
Yeah. The 55, like the 55 is when everything started. When the original stuff started to deteriorate. So they were able to use the only Fantasound system they had left to sort of create a nice transfer. And so that version is the version that was released in theaters in 56, was the new sort of remastered edition, so to speak, of Fantasia. And like they were doing a lot of stuff, like, you know, Buena Vista distribution is around by this point,
right?
You know, you're doing new sort of CinemaScope and stuff formats and Super Scope and all, like, you know, Fantasia gets probably some of more re-releases than a lot of the others, because the re-release breakdown is 42, 46, 56, 63, 69, 77, 82, 85, and 1990.
And then 1990 is when I first saw it.
And 1990 would have been when I first saw it too, because the last time it was like in theaters. So it's kind of shocking. Like there was a stretch where Disney was starting to put stuff, and they were starting to do like, we're gonna start putting out our stuff remastered in 3D. If you remember,
yes,
there was like they were gonna do like Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast and things. We're gonna get like this movie in a 3D remake would have been wild.
You know, this would make like a great. I think it's somehow like adopt this to like VR headsets. Can you imagine watching this thing?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, we'll get to it in a second, but like, you know, there was a Xbox game,
a Kinect game.
Yeah.
Which one of us owns?
I know.
It ain't me.
Owned, past tense. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, like it had its varying deals of success. You know, college kids taking drugs and going to go see the 80s or 90s re-release of Fantasia was a thing, obviously.
Yeah, I can imagine, like, you know, if you're tripping and watching this movie, you probably
that final re-release, the 1990 re-release, made $25 million in its run. So
I can believe it.
There's a story. There's a story where Michael Eisner called Walt's wife at one point because of like the re-releases and the home video releases and stuff. He got the caller and say, "I just wanted you to know that Fantasia has finally turned a profit." So
that's kind of cool.
So yeah, because it was like a very personal passion project for Walt. This movie meant a lot to him, and so, you know, he never got to see it become successful in his lifetime. But you know, eventually it did, and it was cool. Like it was cool. Like, you know, say what you want. Like Eisner did a lot of garbage for the studio, but he also did a lot of, you know, He did some good stuff too, and that's one of the nicer stories coming from Eisner.
And you get to, and you probably get the sense from Walt's perspective that he knew this movie was going to make good eventually.
Yeah, and I think I feel like for him personally, he sort of knew that all along for everything. Like even the things that don't make, like it's depressing in the moment because you want to make something else, but you can't get the money to make something else, so you have to make concessions and stuff. So it's depressing in the time, but like eventually by the time the 50s roll around, he's able to sort of cash in on his classics essentially,
and himself.
Yeah,
and himself as a person, as America's granddad.
Yeah, it was America's uncle. Walt Disney was, weekly, programming on TV, and Disneyland, like out the gate, was like this cultural icon. Like, and so, Disneyland, he's able to sell, his history as a commodity now. Like it may not have made money then, but people want to give me money to ride the theme park version of this movie that I made. Like it's, he commodified everything, and it obviously, based on everything that today paid off, and just buckets of money for him in the end. But
they own everything now.
they own everything that you could possibly ever want, and
all the stuff I like anyway.
It's but it was in the VHS tape was a big seller.
Oh yeah, that sweet blue clamshell packaging.
Yeah, man, it was a because and it was like, and there was like a deluxe edition, like before DVDs had like like you're used to now, like get like on during the first printing, it comes with a pre-order bonus of a lithograph and a behind the scenes DVD and stuff, and like they did like a deluxe edition of this where it was like you got a making of Fantasia documentary and a book and a soundtrack and like a certificate of authenticity signed by Walt's nephew Roy and stuff. Like,
correct me if I'm wrong. Was this a double VHS?
I think only in the sense if you got the collector's edition of.
Okay, that's the one we had. So I don't know if it was it's like
the collector's edition, the deluxe edition had a separate making of feature that wasn't on.
Oh, okay. I thought it was like a WrestleMania 4 situation. But okay.
Just Fantasia was an absolute massive hit. Like 14.2 million copies of the tape were sold, like in its initial sell through. So like,
and of course the soundtrack, which is arguably the most important part of the movie, I guess.
Yeah, obviously
it's gone gold. I believe a couple times.
Yes, yeah. Eventually, it went gold. But
there was some kind of issue with the royalties, right, for the soundtrack.
There's always issues with royalties because the orchestra, they feel they got boned out of the like home video sales in particular.
I can see that.
Yeah, and this was in 92, yeah. They sued the company. They claimed themselves as co-creator of Fantasia, which you co-created the sound.
Yeah, I mean, but you're also like just performing somebody else's music that they've written.
But because home video at the time was sort of by 1992, home video was still kind of fresh for people. Like it's the same thing that sort of happens, like it's happening now. You see a lot of issues arising now because digital stuff is completely new, or as we were talking about earlier, wrestling stuff is completely different. It's like, how do royalties work? Because there is no precedent. So so they were saying like, we're owed $120 million based off of like half of the earnings that these tapes are making. And I'm like, that's a bold claim, but I get where you're coming from.
I
Like,
mean,
I understand. You probably do deserve more money based on that's your performance on this thing that sold, 20 million copies on tape and laserdisc. Not half of it.
yeah. Well, hey, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, so there you
Yeah,
go.
I mean, it's the same thing that happens with every Disney lawsuit. Is it went to, it went to a settlement. It's just
Right.
they dropped the case a couple years later and it went to settlement. So, and there was there was some issues with Rite of Spring saying like you guys don't have the rights to use it in the video releases because it's a Stravinsky thing and it can only and it was that the rights were for the theatrical runs and stuff. But um, yeah, again, it was all uncharted waters that they're dealing in, and eventually it was like, yeah, it extends to home video releases. So
it's like, so hey, if we cut you a check for a portion of what you're asking, will you
yeah,
go away?
yeah, the 60s, obviously in the 60s they started removing some of the stuff from the pastoral symphony.
As we mentioned earlier, there were some issues.
I wrote down I wrote down Roger Ebert's comment on the editing because I thought it was kind of interesting. It's because it's yeah. While the original film should, of course, be preserved for its historical purpose, there is no need for the general release version to perpetrate racist stereotypes in a film designed primarily for children. Um, so, Roger Ebert's sort of touching on a very delicate situation, like what are you obligated to do? Like,
yeah, it's kind of that one of those things where kind of back to the Song of the South. I've heard it argued that there should be some kind of disclaimer. They should be released, but with some kind of disclaimer at the beginning of it.
Yeah,
and it's like, yeah,
I understand. It's going for a touchstone for me and you. It's like when you boot up the WWE network, and it is a thing that might have Chris Benoit on the. They have a little disclaimer saying, "Hey, you might find some of this upsetting given the history of what Chris Benoit did. Just letting you know that he's in this kind of situation." Like, they don't say it in that many words, but I mean that's the gist of it. Like, listen, this murderer dude's in here, and some people might be upset by this, so it's chill out. Maybe it just don't hit play, or just be prepared. And like, does Fantasia need that for the 30 some odd scenes or segments or seconds of the really racist Centaurette in particular?
Well, I mean, here's the thing: you kind of get into a gray area because we're doing Dumbo. We're doing Dumbo next, right?
Oh yeah,
and that's not been changed in any way, right?
Yeah, they never. Well, I don't know. I haven't done the research on re-releases of Dumbo yet, but
I mean, I know. Like, I think MGM just went back and in the last 10 years, went back and re-edited the Tom and Jerry shorts.
Yeah,
with the nanny.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, so yeah, it's Disney. When Disney tries to home video in particular, they sort of present their stuff as sort of archival and always have, especially on DVD.
Here it is. You like it or you don't, I guess.
Yeah, well, and it's funny because Disney has this history of all this stuff, and it's like, you in this country you cannot get Song of the South, obviously.
Yep, I've never seen it. I don't own a copy of it.
But it was available on VHS. You could have seen it at some point.
Again, didn't buy it from a comic convention or anything.
But some is it like, is length the issue? Like the length of time the racism occurs? Like, because like, okay, like,
it's still racist.
it's still racist. Like, and Disney will not re-release it. Period. But like, they will have no problem like cashing in on it because Splash Mountain and Brer Bear and Brer Rabbit and all that stuff.
Zippity Doodah's
Yeah,
president. Yeah.
like they have no problem cashing in on it, but they and like releasing the soundtrack. Like, I growing up, I had like a book on tape, like, you know, those Disney used to do a storybook version.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
They had this. They did have like the Zippity Doodah, like Uncle Remus singing the song, like the original, like. And so it's going to be a thing that we're going to constantly butt up against, going like for the next, you know, decade in particular, of just like what, like Disney fighting this racism stuff. Like it's so ingrained into the culture at the time.
And let's be fair. I mean, Walt. Yeah. Keep in mind where Walt grew up and the era he grew up.
Yeah.
And stuff he thought what it might have been funny.
Yeah.
You know,
it was funny. It was joking. It wasn't like there was no like
malice.
There was no malice. Like intent was, you know, I mean, like there was no discrimination in the sense of like it's like
no.
You could argue that Disneyland in its earlier days were like was more like actionable racist because like black people weren't allowed to work at Disneyland.
Oh, hey, that's a new one for me. That's terrible.
Yeah. Well, it's because if you think about, in particular, like Main Street, because it is supposed to take place at a certain time, like Fantasyland and Main Street are a certain time. And so like he was trying to maintain this aesthetic of a time frame, and it's real bad. Like I think that's like the actionably racist. That's him like actively like preventing workers and stuff. Like that one was that's the most racist of everything, other than these weird caricatures that were just sort of like this commonplace, like everyone was a caricature no matter what. It's cruel. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, just because it's acceptable at the time doesn't mean it's, you know. And again, you know, JJ and I are two white dudes in their 30s.
Yeah, so you know,
we're not like racial experts or anything like that. But wrong is wrong.
Yeah, like we recognize instantly. It's just, you know, it's never been something we've had to personally deal with. So we have really no way of understanding like how this actually feels, seeing that centaurette in the background, or these mushrooms dancing around, or these, you know, or these crows in an upcoming movie.
Yeah.
Like we will never have and never will have that sort of emotional response to it, other than that, like, oh God, really?
Yeah. You know, it makes us uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You know, it's just one of those things where like we don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know how it feels. But we recognize it's a problem.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess we could talk a little bit, because this is going to be one of the longer episodes because there's a lot of history behind. Like obviously Snow White, this one, and like Changing of the Guard movies are going to be big ones, because of like, you know, eventually you're going to have Walt's death in late 60s, early 70s, like that transition period. Like, because Jungle Book will be the last movie that Walt personally like had his hands on. And then you're going to have like the 80, 90 revival. And so, you know, those are going to be some of the longer episodes. But let's just like some of the other material that they were working with that they're going to add, like, you know, remove and add to Fantasia. Ride of the Valkyries.
You mean Daniel Bryan's theme song?
Yes, okay. Flight of the Bumblebee.
Okay.
Like the Swan of, I don't know how to pronounce Tuonela. I
Okay.
don't know. I don't know some of these. Like Invitation to the Dance, I recognize. The Polka and Fugue by Schwanda the Bagpiper. All right, sure, that's crazy. But like, they were gonna uh, uh, Don Quixote was going to be. It's like,
That would have been kind of cool.
yeah, the Firebird. Eventually, we see the Firebird show up at a point. Um,
I'm surprised they didn't kind of do
Claire de Lune.
Hoedown.
What was that?
I'm surprised Hoedown wasn't in there.
Yeah, yeah, you would think, but there's
Aaron Copland, folks. That's the composer for Hoedown.
yeah, but like they were constant. But obviously, with some of these you see show up in like Fantasia 2000. You see Firebird,
Rhapsody in Blue.
Rhapsody in Blue. You're gonna see Flight of the Bumblebee eventually shows up in one form in an upcoming movie that we're gonna do real soon called Melody Time. And they ended up doing other stuff, like there's Make Mine Music has a version. There's actually a segment that is fully produced on the Fantasia 2000 Blu-ray called Destino.
Okay. Destino!
And so Destino was like this musical collaboration between Walt Disney and Salvador Dali.
Holy smokes.
Yeah, and it's what you expect when you hear that. It never came out during its time, but it was like a thing that they were constantly working on, and you can find it on Fantasia 2000 if you have the Blu-ray of it, or maybe the DVD as well. I couldn't be certain, but definitely the Blu-ray.
It's a story of a bunch of melted clocks.
It's honestly not too far removed from what we're saying. So let's get down to our sort of is there section. So we've already answered this one. Most of these. Sequel.
Fantasia 2000.
Fantasia 2000, a 19 like it was like 99. I don't think it actually came out in 2000. Maybe it did. I can't remember.
I don't remember. All I remember was hosted by Steve Martin.
Steve Martin was a part of that whole thing. Like that happened.
And who else? Itzhak Perlman. He's in it.
James Earl Jones, Penn and Teller, Bette Midler.
That's right. Bette Midler was in this.
Yeah. So yeah, and I mean, there is some, there is some other like little things that they're sort of like technically these could have been like considered like spiritual sequels, but they really aren't. Like Make My Music and stuff end up Melody Time and stuff, but they're not sequels. They're just in the same vein of like silly symphony compilations and stuff.
Well, I mean, the hippos and the crocs or gators, where they were. The first time I saw that back in the '80s, the Disney Channel, when it was still a premium channel, used to have these little like music videos set to contemporary music, and then by contemporary I mean Huey Lewis and the News.
Yeah.
And that was the first time I saw those. Like, oh, hey, what is this?
And what the hippos appear in Roger Rabbit?
They do indeed.
There was going to be a third Fantasia in the mid-aughts.
Fantasia 3000.
Yeah, there was going to be like Fantasia 2006, which is an absolutely terrible name. So like, we'll try to get out in 2005 at least. Try to.
I mean, okay, so let's. We're coming up on the 80th anniversary in about two years.
Yes.
So you figure that would be a good time to like.
I think it would be. I think we're at a point now with that anniversary is maybe try a roadshow again, since roadshow movies are kind of a thing, like limited run, like, you know, we're playing this movie with a live orchestra, with Back to the Future with a live orchestra.
Yeah, that'd be pretty awesome. Like, my God, there are Legend of Zelda concerts, people.
Yeah, like I think it would be interesting to like do the roadshow thing legit, like a full.
I would.
Like, yeah,
If I know you would go to one.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
you would sell plasma.
But yeah, it's funny because like there is like there's like Jerry Bruckheimer made a Sorcerer's Apprentice movie, and
no, he didn't.
And like
no.
that's like the legacy of this. Like, yeah, no, Disney absolutely was like like involved in a live action adaptation of the Sorcerer's Apprentice. I'm like, yeah, I guess technically.
I forgot about that movie till you mentioned it. I think maybe I just blocked that part of my memory off.
So yeah, this one's tricky because it's one of those things like, is there a theme park ride, a theme park attraction for Fantasia?
I mean, are you counting Fantasmic?
I would, I think, because it's such a big part, and like you have to have you can get a fast pass for it. So I think I think Fantasmic counts.
Okay.
And like, you know, there's things like sorcerer's hats pop up everywhere. You buy them. It used to be a sorcerer's hat on, like, you know, Epcot or downtown Disney. There was one that led you to the hotel where like the sorcerer hat was just sort of like this iconic thing.
There used to be when we had Disney Store here before they left. There was a ceramic Sorcerer's Apprentice Mickey in the window. Those really sweet looking ceramic giant sculptures they had.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, Disney has Fantasia has a rather, specifically Sorcerer's Apprentice has a rather substantial presence in the theme park, and Disney World has a little 3D film called Mickey's PhilharMagic, which is, it has like Donald Duck putting on the sorcerer's hat and being sucked into different musical songs from different Disney movies like The Lion King and Little Mermaid and stuff. So it's paying homage to Sorcerer's Apprentice. So there's a lot of theme park stuff going on there. The next question is usually like, is there a is there a hit song? And obviously that doesn't really apply too much here because, yes, the entire soundtrack is hit music from, decades past. So,
all of it was.
The soundtrack was big then and now. The soundtrack will always be big. It predates Disney. Many of the songs predate Walt Disney as a human being on this planet. So, like, yeah, it had some big music. It's all culturally significant music.
I remember reading somewhere, or not. Yeah, it was like a big thing about 3 or 4 years ago that they were going to make a Night on Bald Mountain movie, or there was production or some rumors about it.
There was yes, a couple of years ago there was absolutely a a script treatment released. Not released to like the public, but to Disney for a Night on Bald Mountain live action thing. I have no idea what that movie is. I know what it is in context of this movie, but like, what's a full length movie of that?
I don't know. I'd still go see it.
Yes, absolutely. Just based on title alone, I'd be like, yeah, all right.
Night on Bald Mountain.
And of course, last but not least, is there a video game?
There are multiple video games.
There are plenty of video games and Fantasia adjacent video games.
Sorcerer's Apprentice for the Atari 2600.
Yep, there's Sorcerer's Apprentice for Atari 2600. There was a video game called Fantasia for the Sega Genesis or Master System, depending on what part of the world you're in.
Mega Drive.
Yeah, Mega Master System is the original. Mega Drive is the You caught me. You caught me on that one.
Gosh, JJ.
And like
He's a video game journalist, guys.
Yes. No. I mean, and of course, constant appearances in so many things like Epic Mickey, and obviously Kingdom Hearts has quite a bit of it. We talked about it.
Yeah.
Was that?
I said Yinston's in Kingdom Hearts, right?
Yeah, like a boss fight is Chernabog, so the Night on Bald Mountain Devil. So, like, yeah, there's a substantial amount of Fantasia in this. And then we talked about it earlier. There's Fantasia Music Evolved, which was a rhythm game using the Kinect for both the 360 and the Xbox One. And it was Harmonix, who, if you know anything about video games, well known for rhythm games like Rock Band and the original Guitar Hero. And
it had a good soundtrack too, right?
Yeah, it had fantastic soundtracks. It blended contemporary with like some songs were contemporary, some songs were classical pieces, and it was just sort of a mixture of everything. So it's like it has like Sorcerer's Apprentice and Queen. So
and Bruno Mars, I think.
Yes. Yeah. No, it's a like churches and a lot of big contemporary and it even had expansion packs. So like I remember Lady Gaga was in it, Depeche Mode was in it. So and the one that made me laugh the most of all is that it has the CeeLo Green song, but it was the Forget You version. So
and then I think wasn't there a Sorcerer's Apprentice Mickey figure for Infinity?
Yes, there was a couple. They did like your standard one, and then like Toys R Us had like a crystal clear version of it, which, as you would expect, yes, I have. I have the Sorcerer's Apprentice Mickey Mouse.
You can probably go to a Target in this country somewhere and find Disney Infinity figures still.
Yeah, it's tucked between the multiple unsold Star Wars Disney Infinities. Is going to be. You buy a carton of Donald Duck orange juice, to this day, it still has an ad for Disney Infinity.
It sure does.
So,
Donald Duck orange juice.
Oh, it's so good.
It's another sidetrack, but my God, that stuff has magical healing properties.
Oh yeah, it is. It's like it's comfort food in drink form. It's great. I can't get enough of it. It's not exactly common here, but I know exactly where it is, and when I go to where it is, I always
like you have the flu. Not anymore. Donald Duck orange juice.
Yes, it's the greatest, and let's try to get them as a sponsor. That's our only sponsor, is Donald Duck orange juice.
Look, it is the finest of all orange juices, Donald Duck orange juice.
But I mean, boy, there's so much to Fantasia that we could touch down on that we didn't, in terms of production and like how like animators and segments and like there's history that goes on so deep and hard into this one, but like you can only scratch the surface. Like you have to sort of like audio format doesn't really work particularly well with Fantasia in the sense of like a documentary is more.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's an ambitious project, or it was, and it
still is. I would say, like even today, you would be run out of Disney Studios personally if you tried to say we should do Fantasia again. Especially if you have a problematic Twitter feed, I guess.
What? Hold on.
No. But I'm sorry. I apologize.
A standalone Zuckus movie, great idea.
Yes. But yeah, so there's so much. we're gonna do a ranking right now because so we've seen. We'll just start at the bottom. The first movie we saw was Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
Right.
Better or worse than Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs?
Better.
Better, but yeah. And so the next movie would have been Pinocchio. Better or worse than Pinocchio?
Better.
Better than Pinocchio? Well, as I already stated right out the gate, I will not waver particularly hard on this. Fantasia is absolutely my favorite Disney movie, based on ambition and animation and music and visually how it all came together. It's long. There's no getting around that, but it's stunning.
I feel like if you're a Disney nerd, this is kind of your deal.
Yeah, and because it was so personal to Walt, sort of helps it along too. So like, I absolutely love Fantasia. So I think right now our official current ranking is Fantasia, Pinocchio. So we go in reverse order of how we've watched these so far.
Exactly. I mean, Snow White's going to drop down quite a bit here pretty soon.
Yeah,
it's going to drop significantly for me. But now, I think you and I were talking about a week or two ago about is Fantasia available digitally or not?
It is not. It was one of those things where it is a movie that was released when it came out on Blu-ray. Disney wasn't doing the digital copies as freely at the time, so and they've just yet to put it out on a platform where you can get it digitally. So as it is right now, it's kind of out of print, right? It's not kind of. It's out of print right now, but it's not hard to get a copy of Fantasia. There's the DVD. They put out plenty of the DVD, and they put it out as an anthology set with both Fantasia and Fantasia 2000 and a making of disc and stuff. And the Blu-ray is the same thing. It's both movies on DVD and Blu-ray with all loads of making ofs, behind the scenes, like Destino, stuff like that. So
I mean, you say Destino. I'm sorry. I mean, you say Destino.
I know. That's another.
I'm a jerk. I'm sorry.
It's another wrestling thing, folks.
It's maybe the best wrestling thing. So last week we were talking like, hey, go watch this movie. So when I watched this movie yesterday, I just said I'm going to watch it with headphones in, and man, is that a great way to watch that movie?
It changes a lot. Like when I had just watched it, I watched it again yesterday, but like I watched it last month because I was like, boy, it's been forever since I've seen, and this is when this podcast idea was officially like like I'm doing this now. It's like I just came back from Walt Disney World for the first time, and it's like it was like, you know what, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna watch Fantasia. Like after Fantasia, it was like, yep, no, I'm definitely doing this now. And so I have like a really nice pair of like simulated surround sound headphones that I put on to listen to the music on there, and it just absolutely engrosses you. Like it is, like it sucks you into the movie when you're watching it that way.
Yeah, it's like I'm locked, and thankfully I still have a PC laying around with a disk drive on it. So, but no, it's when you look at this movie, and like Disney uses the term masterpiece kind of loosely.
Yeah,
this is if you think of a Disney masterpiece, this is that movie.
Yeah, this is probably for quite a while like their most like theatrical movie. Like it's it is beyond feature length. Like even at the time in the 30s and 40s, 2 hour movies over 2 hours were they existed. Big movies existed that way, but like
John Ford movies,
yeah. Even so, like 2.5 hours was a big movie then.
Yeah. And I'll admit, when I was a kid and I saw it, I was 10 years old in 1990 when it was released, and I was like, oh my god, this movie is so long.
Yeah.
But
It flows really well. I think this is also a movie, given the way it's set up and everything. Like, you don't have to watch it as a movie. You can I just want to
no,
watch. Yeah, you just want to watch the pastoral. You can just watch the pastoral, and that's fine. You're not missing out on anything. You just watch the segment that you like, and then yeah.
That's what I was going to talk about. Yeah, that's why I love it so much, because you can watch it piecemeal.
Yeah,
like
and
I don't have to sit through all of it. If I just
yeah.
want to watch the hippos, I can watch the hippos. If I just
Yeah.
want to watch
Yeah, you just want to watch Night on Bald Mountain. You could just, especially thanks to, DVD format going forward, you could actually skip to it now. So, it's I think of all of the movies, it's Fantasia's like the one to own, like on home video. Like,
I feel like if you have a nice surround sound in your home and a big TV, this is the one you want to go. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So that puts Fantasia into the can for now. Who knows?
Into the Disney vault.
In yes, into the Disney Compendium vault it goes.
With Black Cauldron.
We will obviously come back to Fantasia in several weeks because there is a sequel, an actual mainline sequel. So we will be covering Fantasia 2000. So we will be talking about Sorcerer's Apprentice again. So look forward to that. That'll be exciting. Next week, we will be jumping forward to October 23rd, 1941, with the release of Dumbo.
And this has a special significance because we just got the live action teaser for that recently.
Just very recently, yeah. Tim Burton is. So there's some fresh interest in Dumbo. So very exciting. This is absolutely a movie that I have not seen since they put out the 60th anniversary DVD. So
wow. I think it's the first Disney animated Blu-ray I bought was Dumbo, actually.
Yeah, it's so and if that tells you, let's see, 1941 is when it came out, and the last time I saw it was the 60th anniversary. So yeah, so it's been a while. So very excited to watch Dumbo again. I am 100% certain there were parts of that movie I have absolutely forgotten about. And this will become a significant movie. Some of the talking points we'll have for this movie are obviously World War II, and the Disney strike is a big point for the production of Dumbo. So,
and how much the pink elephant segment scared the hell out of me when I was a kid.
Yes, how race is going to obviously be a touched on again. Because,
yeah, we'll touch on it. It again, it's one of those things we can kind of come at it from our perspective, but it's
yeah, it's it has one of the more egregious segments. But,
yeah, and also maybe how Timothy is either the rich man or the poor man's Jiminy Cricket, depending on your perspective.
Yeah, it's yeah. But these are all of the talking points we'll have for the next week's episode of Dumbo. You can find us at Diz Compendium on Twitter. The website, which will take you straight to the podcast, is DisneyCompendium.com. Everything's been submitted. It should be showing up on iTunes and hopefully Stitcher soon. You know how this stuff works. So if it's not there by next week, it'll be there the week after that. So assuming Disney's not notoriously litigious, so we should be all right.
This is where JJ gets out his SoundCloud URL.
Yeah.
Hot new joint drum.
So yeah. So please join us next week as we talk about Dumbo, and thank you for joining us, and have a magical day.
Bye.